The air in the arena was electric, thick with the fervor of thousands. Charlie Kirk, a figure who had become a lightning rod for a generation of political activism, was at the pinnacle of his influence. His voice, amplified and confident, painted pictures of futures and fears, of battles and victories. Then, in a moment that defied all narrative, the voice was silenced. The official bulletins that followed were masterclasses in sterile language: rapid onset medical event, tragic loss, investigation ongoing. The curtain of officialdom fell with a definitive thud, urging a grieving public to accept the finality of the scene. But some curtains, once drawn, reveal not an end, but a darker, more complex stage. In the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, a shadow narrative began to unspool, a tale not of a single tragedy, but of unsettling silences, of inexplicable composure, and of a machinery of power that whirred to life with disconcerting speed. This is an investigation into the voids left behind, the empty chairs at a memorial, the calm where there should be storm, and the deafening silence from those who should be crying out the loudest. We are not merely examining a death. We are deciphering the performance that followed. The memorial service was a meticulously produced spectacle of sorrow. Televised and streamed globally, it featured a procession of political heavyweights, cultural commentators, and movement leaders, each offering eulogies that painted Charlie in broad, heroic strokes. The production was seamless, the sentiment seemingly universal. Yet, for a growing segment of the audience, the script felt off. The most compelling story was not in the words spoken into the microphones, but in the silent language of those who sat in the front row. At the center was Erika Kirk, Charlie's widow. Dressed in immaculate black, her face partially obscured by a veil, she was the picture of stoic resilience. She accepted embraces with a steady hand, nodded with a quiet dignity, and maintained a composure that was, by any measure, superhuman. In the raw, gut-wrenching aftermath of losing a spouse, especially so young and so publicly, human emotion typically rebels against control. We expect to see the architecture of a person crack, the trembling lip, the shattered gaze, the raw, unbridled agony. Erika Kirk displayed none of it. This deviation from the expected grammar of grief did not go unnoticed. Across social media platforms and online forums, a schism emerged. One camp defended her, arguing that strength in the face of horror is a personal journey, that her fortitude was a tribute to Charlie's own. They pleaded for the public to allow her to grieve in her own way. But another, increasingly vocal faction saw something else entirely. They dissected every frame of footage from the service, pointing to her closed-off posture, the lack of tear-streaked makeup, the almost preternatural calm. To them, this wasn't strength, it was containment. It was the careful performance of someone playing a role, someone ensuring that not a single crack in the narrative could appear. The question hung heavy in the digital air: was this the profound dignity of a grieving wife, or the cold precision of a calculated facade? Yet, the mystery of Erika's composure was overshadowed by a far more chilling absence. The seats reserved for Charlie Kirk's parents remained starkly, inexplicably empty. No mention was made of them in the proceedings. No statement was read on their behalf. It was as if they had been erased from the story of their own son's life and death. This vacuum became a resonant chamber for the most disturbing theories. In a time of unimaginable loss, when parents should be the central figures of a public tragedy, their complete disappearance was not just unusual, it was a scream in the form of silence. Why were they not present? Were they so incapacitated by grief that they could not appear? If so, why was their grief not acknowledged, their absence not explained? The lack of any statement, any gesture, felt less like privacy and more like isolation. This void would soon become the catalyst for the first, most explosive accusations to break from the world of celebrity and into the mainstream. The polished surface of the official narrative shattered when two powerful, disparate voices from the cultural landscape spoke out, not with condolences, but with accusations. Dave Chappelle, the revered and often unpredictable comedian, used his platform during a stand-up special to veer from his usual material. His tone shifted from comedic to conspiratorial, his eyes locking with the audience. "They give you a story," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, "and they expect you to eat it without chewing. They tell you a man falls, and you're not supposed to ask who moved the ground." He went directly for the most sensitive nerve. "Where are Charlie Kirk's parents? You telling me a mother loses her son, and she has no words? No tears for the cameras? Or is it that she's not allowed to have words?" Chappelle posited a terrifying theory that federal authorities had silenced the parents to prevent them from revealing a truth about their son's death that contradicted the official FBI account. He accused the Bureau of being not investigators, but narrative engineers, spreading false information to conceal the real cause of death. Almost simultaneously, conservative firebrand Candace Owens launched her own surgical strike. On her show, she presented what she called a forensic dismantling of the FBI's timeline. The official report pointed to a lone, disturbed individual named Tyler Robinson as the perpetrator of an alleged attack. Owens, however, presented documentation, medical records, witness affidavits that she claimed proved Robinson suffered from a severe physical disability that made the actions described by the FBI a physical impossibility. "The man they have pinned this on," Owens stated, holding up a document to the camera, "could not have done what they say he did. It is a physiological fact. The FBI is not mistaken. They are lying." The impact of these twin broadsides was seismic. Chappelle and Owens, figures from opposite ends of the political spectrum, had converged on the same unsettling conclusion: the official story was a fabrication. They transformed the Kirk case from a tragedy into a potential cover-up, lending their immense credibility to the whispers that had, until then, been confined to the fringes of the internet. Fueled by these high-profile interventions, the investigation exploded into the digital mainstream. The public square was no longer a place of quiet mourning but a frenetic, cacophonous courtroom. Online sleuths, operating in a decentralized network of forums and video channels, began their own deep dive. They became digital archaeologists, sifting through every piece of available footage, every public record, every social media post. One of the first things they unearthed was a cryptic clip from the memorial service broadcast. In a wide shot, just before Erika Kirk took the stage, a figure was seen backstage, partially hidden in the shadows, a man in a dark suit, speaking intently into a communication device. He was not part of the security detail listed in the event manifest. The video was grainy, but it was enough. Who was this mysterious man? Was he coordinating the event, or was he monitoring it? Then came the financial leak. An anonymous account on a crypto-based messaging app released screenshots of a bank transfer log, showing a payment of $350,000 from a holding company with ties to Turning Point USA to an account under Erika Kirk's name. The transaction was dated just 3 days before Charlie's death. The description field read simply, "Consulting fee." The questions were immediate and damning. What consulting was provided days before her husband's tragic death? Was it a coincidental business transaction, or was it a down payment? A payoff? The source of the leak was unverifiable, but its effect was undeniable. It painted a picture of financial motive, of a wife benefiting materially from her husband's demise. The division in the court of public opinion grew starker. 2 distinct camps solidified. One, rallying under banners of support for Erika, saw a grieving widow being hounded by a vicious mob. They argued the payment was a red herring, the mysterious man a stage manager, the accusations from Chappelle, and Owens the reckless speculations of opportunists. The other camp, now armed with what they saw as tangible evidence, became increasingly convinced of a deep conspiracy. They pointed to the cumulative weight of the evidence: the composed widow, the missing parents, the questionable FBI narrative, the mysterious man, the suspicious payment. To them, it was no longer a series of coincidences, but a constellation of complicity. As the public debated, a quieter, more decisive drama was playing out within the corridors of Turning Point USA. The organization Charlie Kirk had built from the ground up was now navigating its most profound crisis. The question of succession was paramount. Who would steer the ship? The answer came with stunning swiftness. In a closed-door board meeting that sources describe as unusually brief and devoid of the typical debate, Erika Kirk was unanimously appointed as the new chief executive officer. The press release announced her as the steward of Charlie's legacy, the one person who could best channel his vision. To the outside world, it was a touching tribute. To those watching the patterns of power, it was a breathtakingly smooth consolidation of control. This rapid promotion deepened the well of suspicion. How did a woman, ostensibly shattered by personal tragedy, possess the presence of mind to assume leadership of a multi-million-dollar organization within weeks? Was this a testament to her pre-existing acumen and strength, or was it the final piece of a plan falling into place? Anonymous sources within Turning Point, speaking on condition of fear of reprisal, began to leak troubling details. They claimed that the organization's internal security protocols, particularly the access logs and camera systems for the event where Charlie died, had been altered. The changes, they alleged, were signed off by an administrator with the credentials E. Kirk and were made the day before the fatal event. If true, this was no longer about emotional ambiguity or financial curiosities. This was about direct, actionable evidence of tampering. It suggested that someone with high-level access had methodically erased the digital footprint of what truly happened. The theory gaining traction was one of internal manipulation, a cold, calculated takeover disguised as a tragic succession. We are now left in the unsettling quiet after the storm of initial revelations. The official channels have gone silent, offering no further updates, no rebuttals to the specific claims made by Owens, no explanation for the parents' absence. The FBI maintains its original statement is factual and complete. Erika Kirk, now CEO, has retreated behind a wall of lawyers and PR handlers, issuing only a single, blanket statement denying all allegations as painful and baseless fiction. But the questions persist, louder and more insistent than ever. They form a labyrinth with no visible exit. What is the true story behind Charlie Kirk's death? The official account has been forensically challenged, yet no alternative has been formally presented. We are suspended in a state of knowing what isn't true, but not what is. Why did Erika Kirk behave with such disconcerting calm? Was it resilience, or was it the confidence of someone who knew the script in advance? The $350,000 payment hangs over everything, a question mark of immense proportions. What service was rendered? Where are Charlie Kirk's parents, and why have they been utterly scrubbed from this narrative? Are they, as Dave Chappelle darkly suggested, being held silent by forces beyond their control? Their silence is the loudest sound in this entire investigation. What was the purpose of the mysterious backstage figure at the memorial? Was he mere event staff, or was he a symbol of the unseen hands guiding this entire drama? And most critically, who altered the Turning Point security systems and why? This is perhaps the most tangible lead, and yet it remains shrouded in the anonymity of its sources. This single act points toward premeditation, toward a conscious effort to obscure the truth. This document is not a conclusion. It is a dossier, an interim report in an ongoing and live investigation. The case of Charlie Kirk's death has evolved from a personal tragedy into a public referendum on truth, power, and accountability. The threads we have pulled, the composed widow, the vanished parents, the disputed official narrative, the financial anomalies, the internal power grab, have not yet led to a center. They have only revealed a web more complex and dark than we could have initially imagined. The division in the public's heart and mind mirrors the central mystery itself. Is Erika Kirk a calculating operative in a sinister plot, or is she a victim twice over? First of a terrible tragedy, and now of a relentless and cruel public persecution? The evidence points in conflicting directions, and the final judgment remains elusive. What we know for certain is that the pieces do not fit. The picture on the box does not match the puzzle we are assembling. There are people, still in positions of power and influence, who know exactly what happened in the final moments of Charlie Kirk's life and in the critical days that followed. The silence from these quarters is not passive. It is an active, forceful presence. And so, the investigation continues. Every new day brings the potential for a new leak, a new witness finding their courage, a new piece of data emerging from the digital fog. This story is a living entity, and it is far from its final form. What are they hiding? What will the next revelation bring? The world is watching and waiting for the next crack in the facade.
Stay tuned.